The broader financial services and retirement plan industry has been regrettably built upon a foundation of hidden fees that can erode investors' savings over time. Today, we'll dive into one of the lesser-known aspects within the 401k industry: how insurance companies employ pricing gimmicks to create layers of proprietary fees through their construction of variable annuity subaccounts. Then, we'll compare them to their underlying open-end mutual funds. In this segment, you'll discover how these fees are structured, who benefits from them, and why it matters to plan sponsors and participants. How insurance companies repackage mutual funds into VA subaccounts. While mutual funds themselves are relatively straightforward investment options, insurance companies take this simplicity and turn it into something far more nefarious. By repackaging existing mutual funds as subaccounts, they are able to add proprietary layers of fees that increase the overall cost to investors. These subaccounts are then marketed through brokers, allowing insurance companies to deceptively leverage name-brand mutual funds to create their own distinct revenue. The lack of transparency in VA subaccounts. With mutual funds, fee disclosures are regulatorily mandated and can be readily identified on third-party platforms like Morningstar, Lipper, and Zephyr. However, when insurance companies create VA subaccounts, they are not required to disclose the fees and expenses in the same way. Furthermore, as they are not offered as distinct investments available in the broader markets, they cannot be independently verified. This makes it exceedingly difficult for plan sponsors and participants to discover the true cost of these subaccounts. The markup: how insurance companies control subaccount pricing. Insurance companies negotiate fixed costs with mutual fund companies, which allows them to secure higher so-called revenue-sharing concessions. This, in turn, gives them the ability to independently control the markup for each subaccount they create. Purchasing a subaccount is like buying a marked-up product from a retail store, whereas buying a mutual fund is more like buying wholesale directly from the manufacturer. As a result, in VA subaccounts, you're paying extra for a middleman. Playing the name game: subaccount versus mutual fund. The name game is another tactic used by many insurance companies. They often label subaccounts with names that resemble well-known mutual funds, giving the impression that you are investing in the same product. For instance, a subaccount labeled 500 Index might be based on the Vanguard 500 Index Fund as the underlying investment. But, by comparison, the cost of the subaccount is typically between 10 and 20 times higher than the actual mutual fund. For example, the Vanguard Index 500 Admiral share class can be owned for 0.04% annually. In contrast, insurance companies offer their equivalent subaccount at between 0.60% and 1.35%. Broker compensation: how brokers control subaccount pricing. The insurance companies also typically provide brokers with options for how they want to structure their compensation. For instance, brokers can choose to receive a larger upfront commission, or they can opt for larger ongoing payments. This flexibility means that even two identical plan clients with the same subaccount can be paying vastly different fees. For example, John Hancock offers 9 different share classes that represent a variety of upfront and ongoing broker commissions. Real-world example: how broker fees impact costs. Consider this real-world example. 2 401k plans, each with $1.5 million invested in the same subaccount called 500 Index, have different costs due to how brokers structure their compensation. Plan 1 has an expense ratio of 0.60% and annual costs of $9,000. Meanwhile, Plan 2 has a much higher expense ratio of 1.35%, leading to $20,250 in yearly costs. The only difference is how the brokers chose to structure their compensation. Brokers that are not also registered investment advisors do not have a legal or moral obligation to act in the client's best interest, often prioritizing their own compensation over plan efficiency. Fiduciary responsibility: the plan sponsor's legal obligations. As a plan sponsor, you are a fiduciary under the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, also known as ERISA, which means you have a legal responsibility to ensure that the fees paid by plan participants are fair and reasonable. ERISA sets the standard by which all fiduciaries are measured, as being those investment decisions which a like expert with appropriate knowledge and experience would reasonably make. The U.S. Department of Labor has emphasized that the largest component of plan fees is investment management fees, and these fees must be carefully scrutinized. VA subaccounts with their hidden costs put fiduciaries in a precarious position. By choosing these more expensive options over lower-cost mutual funds, fiduciaries become exposed to risk for breaching their core duties of care and diligence. Legal precedent: the Tibble v. Edison case. In May 2015, the Supreme Court of the United States created a new legal precedence in the Tibble v. Edison case. In this case, the SCOTUS held that a fiduciary normally has a continuing duty to monitor investments and remove imprudent ones effectively. This ruling has been widely interpreted to mean that using retail mutual fund share classes is imprudent when lower-cost institutional share classes are readily available. Therefore, it is practical to say the same thing about using VA subaccounts. It is important to also note that Tibble v. Edison highlighted the legal fiduciary duty of plan sponsors is held long after the investments are chosen, and seemingly past the assumed statute of limitations. Consequently, the long-term responsibility is on the plan sponsor, not the broker. Bad faith brokers are the sleazy car salesmen of the world, looking to make a quick buck without assuming any accountability for the faulty car. In the end, you pay more for an inferior product that opens you up to long-term liability. Your broker makes more money selling you the product than you'll make from the investment in the long run. Why would any fiduciary risk using subaccounts with hidden fees when the underlying mutual funds are readily available? No fiduciary worth their salt would. Conclusion: mutual funds versus VA subaccounts. Which is better for your 401k plan? The bottom line is simple. Mutual funds offer more transparency, lower fees, and demonstrable compliance with fiduciary responsibilities. VA subaccounts, on the other hand, come with hidden fees and less transparency, which can ultimately hurt plan participants and expose fiduciaries to legal risks. Before choosing a 401k investment option, it's crucial to fully understand the costs involved and select the best option for your participants' long-term success. If you'd like assistance in understanding this further, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help.